Hello, Phil. Yes.
Hello, Magdi.
Oh, I remember you are in Panama.
That's correct. Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you. Magdi, uh, one of my colleagues on Facebook who I follow posted something last week, and I wondered if I could just read a little bit of it. So he said the Buddha is reported to have said that life is dukkha, that is unsatisfactory. In one sense, this means that physical and emotional pain, for instance, sadness, grief, frustration, anger, are unavoidable aspects of our humanness. But psychological pain or suffering, depression, despair, hopelessness, self pity are entirely avoidable. And then he says, all that is required is clear seeing and a humble acceptance of what is in the moment that allows one to move through physical and emotional pain without suffering. So, Magdi, um, I understand the essence of what my colleague is trying to reflect here, but I think it is far too easy to say the psychological pain is entirely avoidable, as this has not been my experience, and I wondered if I could get your thoughts on that.
If we are able to be fully unopposed, I mean, completely unopposed to what is, whichever way you define what is. In other words, if we are able to be in complete absence of opposition, what sort of psychological problems would there be? But it's a good question to look at. It could be that in a certain way, psychological problems are connected, associated with resistance and seeking. And that resistance and seeking may be justified or justifiable from the perspective of the one who is resisting or seeking. Because we are wired for survival and for protecting the entity, protecting the body mind as best as we can, of course. And so we do when there is some sort of physical danger or situation that is threatens the body mind, we act. We run for our life or we fight for our life, whatever. We act. Now, sometimes, maybe more than sometimes, we find ourselves defending, protecting me. Not so much the body mind, but what we believe or imagine or feel ourselves to be. Could be an image, a structure. It's hard to really pinpoint, but the sense of me, a sense of maybe self-righteousness or a sense of personal value beyond of course, the value of life of the body mind, but some other sense of being which has a personal aspect to it. So we try to defend protect that we blame, we justify, we try to avoid, we lie, we cheat, whatever. We engage in certain activities to protect this illusory me. This is where we talk about psychological suffering, which has nothing to do with physical suffering. The psychological suffering has to do with the me belief. There is a sufferer. I'm not talking about the body mind, I'm talking about this belief in a separate self, the me structure, the me. It's quite intricate because it starts at a young age, maybe before, who knows. Now, is it possible to live with that psychological suffering? I would say, yes, it is, but only as we are engaging in the contemplation, in the study, in the exploration of the belief structure, of the me belief structure, and as this is being dismantled through our contemplation, through our studies, through our living, our understanding, and that's a process. Yes, as this process is unfolding, we do find that the psychological suffering does arise less and less frequently, and with less and less intensity, less and less power. The more we engage in the correct contemplation, the correct exploration, the correct understanding, the path of happiness expands, and the falling into the psychological suffering occurs less and less frequently with shorter durations. Yes,
it's interesting because particularly when I was younger, there was many instances where I would be in a very deep, dark clinical depression for an extended period of time. We're talking years. And during that time, even though I had a meditation practice, have had one for almost 40 years now, during these times, it was virtually impossible, or at least I found it was virtually impossible to meditate. Well, I will just add at this point that the thing I found so valuable later on was that I found that by bringing about, as things started to wane a bit and I found I could meditate, the meditation that was so helpful for me was the loving kindness meditation. And I think that's because, of course, with the loving kindness meditation, as you know, you're not only bringing or thinking about love for yourself, but you're then sending it out. And that was extremely helpful for me. The other interesting aspect, which, if you don't mind me just mentioning to this, is the last time when I had a very deep, dark time that lasted about 3.5 years. When I came out of that, it was like a rebirth. It was like the dross had been burned away from me, and a lot of the fear that I had carried before in my life left me. And for instance, I found I was able to leave a dysfunctional 39-year marriage without any sense of fear in doing that. Whereas before, it would have been, I couldn't. I was so locked into my fear and what will happen. So it's a very interesting, I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but At any rate, that's
You know, each one of us, we have our own path, and in time we come to realize that our path was perfect as it was, including those challenging times. And so this, from a certain perspective, we can say all is well and unfolding as it should, like Robert Adams, said, all is well and unfolding as it should. Of course, this does not be much of a relief when we are going through very, very painful time and turbulent times. Of course, we do the best we can. We seek the most comforting, remedies or help that we can. And what I found is that there is abundant love, even when we are in our darkest moment. Somehow there is, maybe we may not be in touch with it, but there is love surrounding us. The unhappiness in life comes from the belief in being a separate entity, in being mortal. I mean, to be mortal, that's a big tragedy. So the belief that I am mortal, of course, the body is mortal, but the belief that I am mortal, that I am immortal, I am the body, and that I'm mortal, and I'm limited, and that is the core of misery, the core of suffering. And I think the Buddha was in his own language, in his own time, was talking about that, about the freedom from the illusion of separation, from the belief in a personal identity. I mean, if you contemplate in your experience, outside of the belief in personal entity or a personal doer, you will find that outside of that belief, everything that appears to you from the universe. It's impersonal. Including your breathing, including your nodding your head right now, including hearing these words, including the words that come through me. I'm not making these words. One could say there is an instrument, named Magdi, and the words are somehow, so yeah, it's all impersonal. And there is a great freedom in understanding that there is nothing personal, which goes hand in hand with the understanding that I refers to all of it, not a, a piece of the pie. I is the whole pie. And to sort of live that, welcome that understanding to live itself through your life, to alter your perception. You're no longer perceiving the world out there. You're perceiving everything as yourself. To alter your thinking, that your thought is not personal thinking. Your thoughts are just universal thoughts. They're just appearing to you out of the universe into the vastness of awareness, the vastness of consciousness. There's a great healing, a liberating aspect to certain understandings about reality, about consciousness.
Thank you, Magdi. Thank you.
Nice to see you.